Okay, this tutorial is going to continue with references. So the whole purpose for a reference list is for the reader to be able to find resources that you're discussing, and you need to ensure that they can find them. Technology allows students to, in certain programs, enter data and have APA format created for them. That's fine if you want to use those systems, but you have to realize that errors can occur if the program cannot read the data. So you need to go through it and ensure that it actually is putting it out in the proper format. Basically, the most important thing is for you to be consistent with your format, and that's really why APA format was created, so that everyone's doing the same thing and we all understand kind of what that format is. So let's look at actually your reference list. So let's actually look at your reference list and kind of what that looks like. This is actually going to be in Chapter 2, where they first address talking about it, and then continues in Chapter 6. The title of the page is References. References is centered and written as references, not works cited. Your references are listed all in alphabetical order by author's last name. You do not number them. And there's a hanging indent, which means it's kind of flush to the left in the first line, and then subsequent lines are indented, one tab. Again, more reference details are in Chapter 6, looking at sections 6, 22, 23, and 25. Okay, so the components of the reference are, this again is cited in Chapter 6, is the author's name, the date of the publication, the title of the work, and the publication data. So let's actually start with the authors. Again, this is section 6.27. Page 184. You're wanting to put the last name for each author and their first and middle initials only. For the publication date, you're wanting to put the date in parentheses. For the title of the article or chapter and journal or book, you're going to capitalize only the first word of the title and after the colon, and you're going to end with a period. For books, you're going to capitalize only the first word of the title, and you're going to give the location where the publisher is located, and then the publisher name. For the title of the journal, you're going to give the full title and italicize it. You're going to italicize the volume, but you're not going to write the word volume. You're just going to include the number. This is a little bit tricky. If each issue of the journal begins on page 1, then you're going to have to give the issue number in parentheses. If not, you're just going to give just the volume number. Something new is the electronic sources. There is something called a digital object identifier, a DOI. You are going to include this in your reference, and if there's no DOI, then you need to provide the home page URL of the journal, book, or report, or the publisher of the journal, book, or report. Again, you need to provide the home page URL. If you're accessing from a database, then you're going to need to go Google it and look it up and find the URL. This is all located on page 186 of the APA manual. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this digital object identifiers. This is actually relatively new. A lot of electronic sources are using it. It's assigned by the publisher. The format that you're going to use in the reference is DOI, colon, and the actual number. Again, if there's no DOI, then this is the example that you will be similar to the example you'll be using. You'll be putting retrieved from and the entire website. At this point, there's no need for retrieval dates or databases, as was done in previous APA manual. Okay, so for your reference list, a good place to see some examples is in Chapter 7. Periodicals are addressed on page 198. If you look at examples, typically I would cite examples 1 through 3 and 8. I think those are the ones you're going to find most frequently. So that's on pages 198 through 200. For books, it's going to be on page 202. For research reports, it's page 205, section 703. For internet messages is section 711 on page 215. And finally, this last section, section A704, is on page 219, and it discusses statutes. And you might find this helpful actually, especially in this class when you're having to reference statutes and how to actually do that. So again, these are on pages 198 through 220. So if you just want to see what an example would look like, this is an example of a journal article. You're going to have author, comma, first initial, period, space, middle initial, period, comma, and the next author. If there's only one author, then you're just going to leave it with the period. You're going to use the and symbol. Again, at the end of the authors, you're going to have the period, parentheses, the date it was published, period, the title of the article, period, the title of the journal is going to be italicized along with the volume, comma, and the starting and ending page numbers, period. And again, this digital object identifier number. So this is an example of what a citation would look like for a journal that I retrieved. Again, this is a volume, just the number, not anything written in terms of the volume, the word volume. And starting and ending pages, and this is what a DOI might look like. Again, if there's no DOI, you need to go to you need to use the URL of the publisher of the journal, book, or report. And you need to use Google or some other search engine to find out what that publisher's website is. So in this case, I actually just looked up the Computers in Education, found out that this is their publisher, and used this as an example. For a book reference, it's going to look something like this. Author's name, again, last name, first and middle initial, year. The title of the book is italicized, and the city or and country it was published in, and colon and the publisher. I think these are probably going to be the three most common citations that you're going to use. That's why I really stress them in here. But for more examples, you're going to need to cite the APA manual. I really encourage you guys to review the following and mark them in your APA manual. The sample paper is a really good reference. It's a sample APA formatted paper in Chapter 2 on pages 41 through 59. Grammar is addressed in Chapter 3. This is actually a helpful kind of lesson and review on pages 77 through 86. Punctuation, again, little detailed. Some of it gets into citing specific statistics and things like that. You might not need that at this level. However, it's a really good tool to have in Chapter 4 on page 87. And finally, preparing a manuscript in terms of format, font, line spacing, margins, all of that is in Chapter 8 on page 228. Thank you very much for your time, and really this video just needs to kind of be used as a guide to help you starting to work your way through the APA manual. But the thing that's going to make this work for you is actually practicing it and referencing your APA manual. Thank you so much and have a good day.